There's something you've been thinking about doing for a long time. It's been in your heart. Maybe you haven't stated it out loud. But this new moon in Pisces, this could be when you start. This new moon in Pisces is on March 18. It is at 28 degrees of Pisces, and that's a very interesting degree because that is a very late degree in the sign, and then Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. And so this is something that you've been thinking about doing, thinking about starting, thinking about maybe planting a seed for, but something has gotten in the way. And now it feels like it's time. You see, the degrees of a sign go from 0 to 29. So as we get to the 28th degree, we're so late in the sign that we feel that urgency, that pressure to make something happen. Now, this could be something that was developing in the background for a long time. Maybe it's an idea that you had even years ago. This could be something that you've been mulling around and not sure whether to start or not, and now it feels like it's time. And then we add in Pisces, and Pisces is about imagination. It is about a dream. It is about our ability to connect with the universe. And so all of those, that potential to create anything, that is that energy now. This new moon makes one really important aspect, and that is the sextile to Uranus. So Uranus is about sudden surprises, about changes, about innovation, about a shift of direction. And so this energy with a sextile means that as you put your foot on the path, then all of these opportunities and synchronicity open up. A sextile is an interesting aspect. I would describe it as your friend needs a wedding cake, and so you call up the bakery and you order the cake. You go in, you pick up the cake, it's all perfect, they put it in the proper box, you get it to the wedding, you take it out of the box, you assemble it, it's all perfect. Basically, it all works out, but you have to take action every step of the way. So with this new moon, even taking a small step is going to lead to a signpost, someone who gives you a helping hand. And Uranus loves experimentation. It loves to innovate. And so this is to look around and see if there's not some new way to try something, some new way to approach the problem. But then you might ask me, well, isn't Mercury still retrograde? And yes, it is true. We have new moon energy, which is all about new beginnings, while Mercury is retrograde and going backward. But Mercury is only retrograde for 2 more days. And so it's slowing down so it can kind of turn, and then it's going to go forward again. And in that process of slowing down, that is, as you are beginning this new thing, you are taking your time. You are deliberately looking for the signs. That is, am I going the right direction? What is happening when I make this call, when I talk to this person, when I do anything to initiate this new action? What response am I getting from the universe? That's what this Mercury retrograde is about. And notice, I covered it up, so let me uncover it. So notice that it is sitting right by the North Node, and that's the life path. That's your life path. That is the direction you're supposed to be going. And so as you're feeling your way, you can tell whether the door's swinging open or whether it is staying shut. And if it's staying shut, then it's a sign. Just go knock on another door, or knock on a window, or stop a passing car. Like, Uranus wants you to innovate. But the Mercury here, sitting right there with that North Node, and they are sitting together, that is, you're receiving signs about your life path. Now, there's one more factor to keep in mind with this chart. I lost my pen. Okay. And that is that Saturn here, which is sitting at 3 degrees 56 minutes, so almost 4, is going to be making an exact sextile with Pluto, which is here at 4 degrees Aquarius, 58 minutes. They're actually going to meet in an exact sextile when they are at 5 degrees. So on March 28, these two planets meet together and they form a very interesting sextile. So we already talked about what a sextile is, that aspect of cooperation where two forces come together and things work out. Now here comes Saturn, which is all about structure and responsibility and achievement, and meets Pluto, which is about transformation, about digging within, finding out what is really going to be important and getting rid of the rest. And so what we have here is the energy of taking whatever systems or processes or whatever it is that is in your way and deconstructing it, and then examining the pieces. Is this piece necessary? Is this piece necessary? And then putting it back together in a stronger form. And that could be anything from your daily routines, your process of meeting new people, how you approach business, how you approach getting into a relationship. Any of these things might need to be examined, looked at, taken apart, and so you can figure out how to build them back better. So as you can imagine, so far what we have is Mercury that is almost stationary and is soon turning direct. So it's moving pretty slowly. And then two of the slowest moving planets coming together in this sextile, which says that you need to be thoughtful and methodical. And all of this is happening when we have Venus, oops, again, I lost my pen. When we have Venus here in the sign of Aries. So, and that is a very impatient placement for Venus. Venus in Aries says, I want it, and I want it right now. Now, of course, when a planet is in the sign of Aries, it is ruled by Mars, and currently we have Mars here at 12 degrees of Pisces. And so when we're doing Aries and we're checking with Mars, Mars says, just try anything. Mars says, you feel impatient, then just go do something. Mars in Pisces is very much about, throwing all the spaghetti on the wall and seeing what sticks. It is not direct focus action. It is diffused action. It is, if you feel like you're blocked in one area, to get up and do something else, to toggle between different business ideas, to connect with multiple people, to try different ideas. So think about this as it's necessary for you to be experimenting, making adjustments. This is not a wasted effort. Think about this as exploration and discovery. So during this Pisces new moon, you're not making some dramatic leap forward. This is where you stop for a moment and you say, what is it that I want? You listen for the signs. You look at the systems and processes that you have, and if something is not working in your life, you look at what you can remove or change about that process to make it better. And then you slowly take steps forward and see the results you get. And if you would like to know more about what's ahead for you in 2026, I do readings. There's a link in the description. Okay, let's go sign by sign. So I've taken the Placidus chart and I have switched the house system to a 0 Aries chart. So this is predictions for Aries and Aries rising. And of course, then we see that right behind that Aries, right in that 12th house, is this new moon. So this is the new moon before the Aries new moon, which will be next month. And so this is the end of your lunar year. This is the last month in your 12-month cycle. And in the last month, if you think about it as a year on the farm, this would be like the end of winter. It's not quite spring yet. You can't plant the new seeds yet. You want to, but it's too cold, the ground is too hard, and the most you can do is put them in those little cups on the windowsill and see if they sprout. So this is a time, though, for considering how the year has gone, and that's going back 12 months. That is, the things you set out to do, did you get them done? What were the obstacles? What have you overcome? Where are you stronger? Where are you more efficient? Where are you more productive? But also, where are you happier? Where are you more comfortable? And then thinking about going forward, what needs to change? And so this isn't a time for setting out and doing a lot of new actions. This is a time for assessing, working behind the scenes, maybe doing some projects or planning like a farmer would with where they're going to lay out the different crops. But also this may be a time where you're doing some small soft launches of a business or a website where you just show it to friends, or that you are trying out some new investments just with a small amount of money. This could be something where you are just redesigning the life that you want to live so that you can set it in motion in a month from now. This new moon makes a sextile to Uranus. Uranus is sitting in your house of money. And so oftentimes when you're thinking about what it is you want to be doing, money gets in the way. And it's maybe time to utilize that Uranus and think outside the box. That would be, all right, if money wasn't an issue, what do I want? What direction do I want to go? And then when you've determined where you want to go, then get creative about how you can fund that, because there's more than one way to find funding. So that's what the Uranus is there for, to give you some new ideas. Now, when it comes to love relationships and friendships and connections, we want to know what the ruler of the ascendant, that's Mars, that's your sign ruler, that's that Mars in Pisces, is doing with Venus, the ruler of the descendant. And they're doing a semi-sextile. So that semi-sextile is that there are opportunities for new connections and new relationship, but there's some sort of small obstacle, tiny little hurdle, not a normal size hurdle, like a curb size hurdle that is in the way. Now, of course, curbs can still be a problem because curbs trip a lot of people. That's the idea here, that because there's some resistance, there's some little bit of friction that you might feel like, oh, I don't want to go to the networking meeting, or I don't want to go on the blind date, or I don't want to meet my sister's best friend's cousin's roommate. So the idea here is to say, you know what, I know there's going to be friction, that's okay, I want to make this connection, so I'm going to go out there and do it. And because there is an aspect, that does mean that you can come together and figure things out, so that there could be some interesting possibilities. Now, when it comes to your money, we're very interested in what the ruler of your second house is doing, and that is also that Venus. So Venus is in your own sign of Aries. It's going to be there for another couple of weeks. And so during this new moon time, which is about 2 weeks, you have a lot of ability to initiate action and to see some results from that. That means this is a great time to get started. Now, as I talked about in the opening, as you get started, this is not a rush out the door sort of start. This is more of a take a step, see what the results are, and then decide whether you step in the same direction or if you go a little bit this direction or a little bit that direction. That is perfect for things like A/B testing in marketing or doing any sort of market research. This is a time, again, about that soft launch to try your pitch out with several different people. If you're going to do some sort of investing, this might be investing a small amount to see how you're comfortable with it. Not to say, okay, well, then if it goes up, oh, I missed out, or if it goes down, then I dodged a bullet. This is more about you getting used to reading the signs and symbols of your intuition and the market to put those in harmony. And the other thing that I wanted to point out, and we'll be talking about this for a couple of years, so, is that Neptune and Saturn are now officially in Aries. And that means you own these energies. And the sooner that you get used to these energies, you will be able to wield these tools in a very effective manner. So Neptune is about having a vision, and that is picturing how you want things to go before you get into it. This is something that you can train yourself to do, to picture how the meeting's going to go, or that you're going to find the right parking place, or that what it is that you want to achieve with the connection happens. The Saturn is about work and discipline and taking a leadership role and determining the difference between just taking action and making real progress. Basically, Saturn in Aries really wants you to take action, and you're all about that. but the action has to be towards building something, about creating something, not just making a lot of noise and moving very quickly. So this Saturn and Neptune combination is going to be very helpful for you as soon as you learn to wield these tools. Now I've taken the Zero Aries chart and I've rotated it so that Taurus is on the ascendant, and so this is predictions for Taurus and Taurus rising. And we find that the new moon then falls in your 11th house. The 11th house is about friendships and connections, and so over the next 2 weeks it's really beneficial to get back into a group. Maybe you don't go to the meetings as often, maybe you've let your membership lapse. It may be even possible that they want you as a person on the board to take some sort of responsibility in the group. And, this might be something to consider. The 11th house is also about technology, and so this is really a good time to lean in. And if you're working on AI skills or other tech skills, to take an accelerated course, or just spend some time each day picking up the knowledge. There's so many good videos on YouTube that can get you up to speed about whatever topic you're looking for. And then, of course, the 11th house is about the future. And so thinking about your plans for the future. In the opening, I talked about how this is a time to pause before you rush forward. You're very good at that, of seeing what the lay of the land is before you take a step. But this time, add in what you want, what that vision is for what you want to achieve. That is what that new moon in Pisces can bring you, is something that is a clear picture in the fog. Now, the ruler of your chart is Venus, and Venus is making a square to Jupiter. That's an exact square. And so that means that there is a lot of eyes on you. During this 2 weeks, you're probably going to be asked to either give your findings, lead a meeting, talk about what you're doing, or they want your report, your contract, your signature on something. Remember, Mercury's retrograde for a couple more days, so if you can hold things off until Mercury's moving forward, that could be helpful. And this is likely going to be a very busy 2 weeks for you, and so you want to see what you can do to delegate information, and also, but just keeping up with the correspondence, because especially over the next few days after this new moon, it could be easy to miss an important email or some important information. Now, when it comes to relationships and connections and partnerships, we want to know what the ruler of the ascendant is doing with the ruler, or in your case, rulers of the descendant. And there's no aspect going on between Venus and Pluto, but there is a semi-sextile between Venus and Mars. And so there is this ability to connect, but there's a little friction here. A semi-sextile is like a squeaky door. Like you open the door and it squeaks and it kind of rubs against something. And so instead of going out, you say, oh, you know what I need to do? I need to take this door off the hinges and use the plane and then re-level the door and get some WD-40 and then the meetings pass, the connections pass, the blind date is over. So this is to think about that friction and say, you know what, I'm not going to let that stop me. This could also be not the squeaky door, but just the fact that you sit down and you say, I just don't want to go out again. But the world is out there. And so you say to yourself, I don't want to do this and I'm going to do it anyway. That usually can get you moving toward meeting and connecting with people. Once you do, then there's possibilities here of new connections, a love relationship, or a good friendship. Now, when it comes to your money, we look for what's going on with the ruler of your second house, and that is Mercury. Mercury being retrograde, sitting there with the North Node. So it's nearly stationary right now, sitting on your life path. That is that you could receive information about the direction that you need to go. That's the most fulfilling direction for you, the North Node direction. This is usually a direction that's outside of your comfort zone. Looks like it's going to be some work. all of those things that cause us to hesitate moving forward. But this is where you're getting the information. This is where the signs are happening. This is where you're getting that nudge from the universe. And so thinking about, money-making activities, things that could bring more value, more revenue into your life, that's where you're going to see signs of the direction to go. That can be anything from a colleague saying that they're moving on to another company, so you start to think, maybe I should go too. Or that your supervisor says, there are going to be some openings next year if you want to, take more responsibility now or take on a bigger project. So look for the signs. Again, they're not going to feel super comfortable. They're going to feel like they're a little bit of work, but they are, this is the universe pushing you in a direction that's going to lead you to more money. So I've taken the 0 Aries chart and I've turned the chart so that Gemini is on the ascendant. And so this is predictions for Gemini and Gemini rising. And this brings our new moon energy right into your 10th house. And so that is about your career, your reputation, and your status. That means that there is something new that's a possibility for your career that can give you opportunities within your current job, maybe a different department, or to move out of this job into something else. If you've been thinking about starting a business or expanding an existing business, all of these things fall under this category. Now remember what we talked about in the opening. This is very much a time where you take a step and then look for the signs and the results of that step and then take the next step until Mercury turns around and starts moving forward at a regular pace. So sometimes as a Gemini, you want to try multiple things at once. That's actually a good thing right now, is to do a little bit of multitasking. If you start with doing something and you hit, some place where it's either blocked or you're waiting for some results, then you can toggle over to some other activity, and then that could give you some results that you could measure. We also see, of course, lots of energy up in that 10th house. So if there's been rumors about layoffs or things that are going to cause your job to become unstable, you definitely want to take action, because this is a sign that there are new opportunities for you, new doors that are going to open, and you don't want to miss those. As Gemini or Gemini rising, of course, we want to look at the ruler of your sign, and that is Mercury. And Mercury is sitting right at the very top of your chart with the North Node. Now, the North Node is your life path, and so that means that if the universe is closing a door, especially in career, but also in an important relationship or where you live, if a door is closing, that's the universe nudging you in the direction of your life path. That means that you need to watch for the signs that you are really guided now, that you can find the path forward. So, and as I said, this is not necessarily just about career. 10th house is also status and reputation, and so that can affect, your relationship status. Forgot that word for a second. Relationship status. But because the 10th house is opposite the 4th house, and we often do that axis of the two houses, this could affect where you live and who you live with. So there might be some changes in that area also. This is very much about looking for the signs. Remember, we're not rushing forward, but because you are Gemini or Gemini rising, you can really pick up the information now. Now, when it comes to relationships, we really want to know what's going on between Mercury, the ruler of your sign, and the ruler of the descendant, which is Jupiter. And we look at these, and they're making a very wide trine. It is a trine. It's just right on the outside of the orb that I give, which is 7 degrees. And so there is this opportunity to connect, but it's going to feel a little tenuous right now. Like you make the date, but you can't quite make it. You have to change it. It still could happen, because what's going to happen with Mercury is it is going to change directions, and it's going to close in and make that trine stronger. So over the course of the 2 weeks, you have really good opportunities for meeting new someone new for a love relationship, a business partnership, some sort of collaboration, a friendship, and also strengthening existing relationships and partnerships. Now, when it comes to your money, we look at the ruler of your second house, and that is the moon. And the moon is making that sextile to Uranus. We talked about this in the opening also. This is about looking at where you can pivot, where you can make a change. This is not a huge change. This is a sextile change. That is that if you put in the effort, then good things happen. So this is to do some testing about how you're putting yourself out there in the world. If you're looking for a job, maybe A/B test your resume and see how that goes. Of course, if you own a business and you're doing some sort of marketing, to try different marketing techniques, different platforms and things like that. This is also about shifting something within you. This Uranus is very close to your own sign of Gemini. It's going to be going into the sign of Gemini in April, and it's going to spend years in your sign, and you're going to have the benefits of that ability to come up with 1,000 ideas. This right now says more that you need to commence the ending of something. So you need to finish up some of the stuff you've started. That is, restart some of the things that you've been procrastinating on so you can get those done, because in April it's all new energy. Now, I've taken the 0 Aries chart and I've turned the chart so that Cancer's on the ascendant, and so this is predictions for Cancer and Cancer rising. And here is the new moon. Now, it looks like it's right at the top of the chart, and it is so prominent. The sun and moon are way up there, and so people are looking up to you, people are admiring what you're doing, people are asking your opinions. This is a time where you really want to stand up on stage, grab the microphone, and say, here I am. This is also a time where you are showing off what you know. That is, telling people about your degree, or finishing up a class, or that you are getting a diploma. This can also help you get credentials for a business, get a legal matter solved, find accreditation, or getting a license, a permit. Any of those sort of things can help. This is a very strong chart too for travel. So if you're going somewhere, this comes up as one, you're probably going to have a very good time. You're going to meet interesting people, but also that it's going to be a more profound experience philosophically for you. It's going to shift something inside of you. Spiritually, this is quite a strong chart too, and so this may take you back towards some sort of structure in your spirituality. That can be going to a temple or a church or a synagogue, but it also could be that you pick up journaling again, or you are doing a regular meditation practice. This is really good to start this now, because with that Mercury retrograde and new moon combination, things that you start during this time, you're bound to continue and repeat. So you want to work on those spiritual practices, things that you do want to repeat in the future. Now, when it comes to relationships, we look at the ruler of the charts, so the moon, and then the ruler of the descendant, which in this case is Saturn. And it's not going to look like it, but they're actually conjunct. So I'm going to draw the line around all of these guys and show you that the moon, which is very late degree Pisces, is actually sitting next to Saturn, which is very early Aries. So that means that the two of you are coming together, but you're very different. And so if you're meeting someone for a friendship, a business partnership, a collaboration, or even a love relationship, you're definitely, this is like the ballerina and the biker coming together. This is two very different people who are finding that they have a common purpose or some common ground. Now, that also for your existing relationships is to remember that even if you are on opposite sides of the issue, or just night and day different from each other on the issue, that there's still a lot of common ground here because of that conjunction. So, but it can feel like you're the odd couple, a little bit chained together. So when that's happening, you have to recognize that they may not be understanding what you're saying, and you may not be understanding what they're saying. You might be using the same words, but you don't have shared definitions, and that's what you need to work on. Now, when it comes to your money, we look for the ruler of your second house, which is the sun, and the sun is making that nice sextile to Uranus. Uranus is in your house of technology and friendships and groups and organizations, and that's where the change is needed. Whenever we're making an aspect with Uranus, we need to make a change. More money can come to you, but it is predicated on this idea of you getting more involved with friends or groups or colleagues, or that you are leveraging technology to help you. And you're going to know which one it is, but for most people, it's going to be a combination of both. And the hard thing, I think, is because you're Cancer or Cancer rising, you tend to get into a very tight group, and so you don't often let in acquaintances or especially strangers. And in this particular case, though, that could be the way towards the prosperity. Additionally, it's the same thing. You may love one of the AI platforms, and therefore you never stray to another platform, but there may be something that other platforms have that just opens up financial opportunities for you. So this is what to look at, is making a change in this area. Now, I've taken the 0 Aries chart and I've turned the chart so that Leo is on the ascendant. So this is predictions for Leo and Leo rising. And we find that the new moon is up here in the 8th house. The 8th house is about power, control, and other people's resources. And so starting with that, this is the idea that people do owe you. Like, you do a lot of wonderful things for people. You're magnanimous. You come in and you light up the room. So then other people become in your debt. But in this case, it's showing that maybe you haven't collected on some of that. This is a time to allow other people to help you, to allow other people to give to you. This is going to be something that may cause you to have to let your guard down a little bit. It's also possible that they're going to give you something and there are some strings attached, but that's only if you agree to those strings. You don't have to. You can still accept the opportunity and the gift and not accept everything they're attaching to it. This is also about power and control, and so there's a need to be aware of what you're trying to control, what you are trying to keep all perfect and under your control before you move forward. That is that, sometimes people want to know all of the steps before they actually launch something, when you know that once you take a few steps, all of these different possibilities and directions are going to open up, so you can't know all of the ways it's going to unfold. It's also not necessary sometimes to know everything down to the micron level. I've often said you don't need to know the parts of a car to drive one. So this is about releasing some of that control, and with it you gain power. So the ruler of your sign is the sun, and the sun is making one nice aspect here. Only aspect it's making, which is the sextile to Uranus. And that means that benefits come to you when you make a change. So sometimes, of course, Leo being the bonfire, fixed fire, a fire that doesn't move. So you're the bonfire, right? It's gigantic fire and people see it from miles around and they come to you. That sometimes does not facilitate the idea of change. But here we go with this nice sextile that if you make a change, then benefits happen. If you make a change, then you receive the resources from others, their knowledge, their money, opportunities. So the Uranus is still in your house of career, so this may be career related, but that's also your area of status as well as reputation. So this can be around friendships, love relationship, like relationship status. And the energy here says, make a shift, do something different, new doors will open. And we see this energy mirrored in the fact that the ruler of your ascendant, that again, the sun, and the ruler of the descendant, that is also Uranus, are in that sextile. So that means that when it comes to love relationships, friendships, partnerships, you can work it out right now. Now, it may be a surprise how it works out. It may be a shock that they suddenly agree with you, or that you're surprising yourself by acquiescing to their demands. But you can come together with some sort of agreement. And so that can aid in partnerships and collaborations. This is also really good for meeting someone new for a love relationship. That person may have a spark, something that is just lights up the room, and that together with you as the bonfire, wow, that could be a fire so bright it burns into space. Now, when it comes to your money, we look at the ruler of your second house, and that is Mercury, still retrograde, sitting there with the North Node. And that is that as you pause and you look at your investments, you look at your the sources you're getting money from. That could be your business, your job, and those investments I was talking about. That's where you need to open up the statements, look through them. What are you getting charged? Look at your W-2. Is the money going into the right places? Look at the customer list that you have. Are some of your older customers falling away? Are they starting to refer more? This is a time to assess what's going on and then taking some action and moving forward. But this is not about saying, all right, we saw, this is what we've been doing, so we're just going to double down on that without looking at the numbers. This is look at the numbers, the signs are there. Now, I've taken the 0 Aries chart and I've turned the chart so Virgo is on the ascendant. So this is predictions for Virgo and Virgo rising. And this puts the new moon right in your house of relationships. And that is that basically everything that we are looking for really can come through other people. If we meet people, that can be connections for jobs, a new place to live, that can be friendship and companionship, etc. That could be the person who has a referral for a great plumber or mechanic. Like this is where we interact with the world. And so with this particular new moon, it's time to actually go out into the world and meet some more people. You might go to some groups or a community center or some sort of spiritual connection place. The idea here is to reach out to people. And this could start online by just reaching out to people on LinkedIn or through Facebook or some other social media platform. But this is to think about what other people are doing and to bring those people closer and see who they are and if there's going to be a real connection. Now, this is emphasized when we look at the ruler of your sign, and that is Mercury, and Mercury is also in that same house. It's sitting with the North Node, and that means this is extremely good energy for connecting with someone who can help you on your life path, to connect with someone where you feel a past life connection with that person, where you feel an instant camaraderie, an instant sort of bond. That's what this energy is about. So this is also that meeting the friends of your friends, meeting your partner's friends or who they went to school with, is expanding that circle of people that you're connected with. That is very strong right now too. Now, I know that Virgo, sometimes you guys, because of the axis with Pisces, you can be a little bit of a hermit. That I just wanted to remind you that, the aspects like this line up usually just once a year. And so this is a time where the universe is really trying to shove you out the door. So maybe give up your hermitage just for a month or at least 2 weeks and get out there a little bit, because the people that you meet during this time could be very instrumental in your future. When we look at the relationship between your sign ruler and the ruler of the descendant, or in your case, 2 rulers, you have the semi-sextile to Neptune, and the trine is a very wide trine to Jupiter. That means that the semi-sextile to Neptune, which is and it's pretty wide too. So that is that resistance to going out and doing what I just said, meeting new people. That's where you think, oh, I'm comfortable at home, or, I don't have the right jacket to wear, or it's really far away. That resistance could cause you to hold back. This is your opportunity to strengthen a relationship, to meet someone new who's going to be important in your life in the future. And so you don't want to miss these aspects, but because they're wide, the tendency is to think about it and not do it. Then when it comes to your money, we look at the ruler of your second house, which is Venus. And Venus here at 15 is making a perfect square to Jupiter. This is really strongly indicating that more money is possible, that you could be out there grabbing money through making proposals, pitches, talking to your boss about opportunities there, expanding a business, looking at investments. There are so many strong money opportunities for you. This is something you don't want to miss. You want to be thinking about how you can take whatever it is that you are selling now, whether that be your time, your products, your services, and seeing if you can find a wider audience, seeing different ways to market, and to look at the opportunities that you've already been kind of working at, and seeing if you can nudge those people to a yes, because this is really great energy for you. So I've taken the 0 Aries chart and I've turned it so that Libra is on the ascendant, and so this is predictions for Libra and Libra rising. And that puts this new moon in your 6th house of work, health, and daily routines. And so this is a time where you have to look at your life and say, all right, what needs to be done? Because this is a time where it's all going to fall into place, where you can get things done and, put away or decluttered, or find a different system or process that's really going to benefit you. This is a time, too, where there's a lot of activity at work, so it's likely going to be a very busy new moon cycle for you, especially because we have that slow Mercury out of the gate. There's a desire to move forward and a lot of pressure to move forward when you may not have all the information yet, or you might not have a clear direction. That said, there is some good energy here in the area of relationships, so that's going to help you get people to be on your side if you need more time, or to help you out if you do need to move forward on something. This is also about taking care of yourself, and when the new moon is there, that's saying do something new, do something different. That might mean starting a new exercise regimen or some new diet plan. This could be that you're shifting something where you're seeing different doctors or doing different supplements. A new moon here with that slow Mercury says to try something out. Don't just jump in, but try it out. See if it's working for you. This isn't going to the gym and trying to lift 1,000 pounds and then feeling all sore the next day. This is go and try it. Don't sign up for a long program right at the get-go because Mercury's still retrograde. Now, when we look at Libra and the ruler of Libra, that is Venus, what we find is Venus is making an exact square to Jupiter. So, and this is in areas of the chart that are about other people as well as career, your reputation, and your status. So good for relationships, good for career. Mostly this is you have an opportunity now to make connections that could help you in your life in lots of different areas. So this is about getting out of the house. As you can see, and let me clear this chart up a little bit. If we divided this chart in half, this side of the chart is the self-directed side. I'm going to do things on my own and by myself. And then this side is, I think I'll check in with other people and see what they say. I was trying to encompass those. So I can't leave that up there. But see how many planets are on this side of your chart, that means that other people are the key. Connecting with other people opens up so many doors for you, and you are going to be meeting new people, like whether you try to or not, but if you give it a little push, as this Venus square Jupiter suggests, you could meet people who are instrumental to help you in the future. Now, when we specifically look at relationships, we want to know what Venus is doing with the ruler of the descendant, which is Mars. So, and we see them in a semi-sextile. So a semi-sextile is about having a little bit of friction. And it's really interesting because as we study things like feng shui, or in the world of marketing, it's called, I think, decision psychology or decision architecture. This is that a little bit of friction can cause a person to do something entirely different. So because there's friction in this area, as we talk about relationships, there's a hesitation. You get home and you say, I don't really want to go out. Or that you get to the door of the meeting, you say, I don't really want to do this. I don't want to meet this person. There's friction. But if you can say to yourself, I'm going to acknowledge the friction and then I'm going to do it anyway, usually that friction will give way. So the friction of, I should have said, I wanted to point out why that is in feng shui. The idea of the friction is that when you're in the grocery store, the products that are all natural and healthy, they seem to be on a higher shelf. The cheaper products are on the lower shelf. The stuff that the store wants you to buy is right at eye level. That little bit of friction that you have to reach up or you have to bend down is enough to get a lot of people to buy the higher priced item that is right in the middle. So that's the level of friction we're talking about with a semi-sextile, and that's the thing that could be causing you to hesitate going out and meeting someone who could be instrumental in your future or really fun to be with. I should have added that too. Now, when it comes to your money, you have two rulers of your house of money. One is Pluto. We're going to talk more about Pluto probably next time because Pluto's going to be there for a long time. I'm going to say this over and over. You need to get out of your comfort zone. You need to step into something that feels a little bit like a risk, but allows you to express who you are, your creativity, your abilities. But I wanted to focus a little bit on Mars because Mars is in Pisces. I did a whole video on Mars in Pisces, and it's about this energy of being the warrior. That's Mars, but you're a warrior fighting in the fog. And so you can't really see clearly right now what the things are that are going to work best. And you can't know that yet. This is just a time to take a step forward and check and see what kind of results you get and continue to take another step and another step. It's not going to be clear yet what kind of results you're getting. Mars in Pisces is about feeling your way and using your inner compass rather than an actual compass or a business plan or some video that gives you all the steps to success. This is looking within and finding your next way forward. So I've taken a 0 Aries chart and I have turned the chart so that Scorpio is on the ascendant, and so this is predictions for Scorpio and Scorpio rising. And we find that the new moon is in the 5th house. The 5th house is about creativity. It's about having fun. It's about taking risks or speculating. It's also about your kids. And so there's something new going on in this area. And one of the things that comes to mind with this configuration is that you may be ready to launch some sort of creative project, something you've been thinking about doing, or some new fun activity that you've been holding back on. Now, of course, Mercury is still retrograde, and so it doesn't say jump in. It says put your toe in the water. Just try it out. Now, if you have kids, what can happen is that they can be little mirrors for you. So you may be seeing them do exactly this, that they are They have these talents and abilities. They're not utilizing them. They need to start putting themselves out there, but they're not. And if you tell them to do this directly, they're still not going to do it. No, the solution is for you to look then at your own life and see where you're hesitating, where you're procrastinating, and put yourself out there. And as you do, then you will notice, just like some sort of little miracle, that they're doing it as well. That's why we see this interesting connection between the new moon and Uranus in your 7th house. That is that you and the other person are connected. You are mirroring each other. So the things that are irritating you about the other person, or the things where you feel they're missing an opportunity, those are your opportunities. So those things that are bothering you, there's something, some sort of message for yourself. And as you make the change, they miraculously shift. Now, the other thing that I wanted to talk about, since you are Scorpio rising, and that is co-ruled by both Pluto and Mars, I did put out a Mars in Pisces video that is all about that energy that is so different for Mars. You know, like Mars wants something straightforward, focused, you know, but with Pisces, everything's kind of hazy, it's foggy. And so this is a warrior who is moving slowly in the landscape because they can't see too far ahead. So every step you stop and you assess whether that was a good step or not, or whether you're getting close to the edge of a cliff. This is the opportunity now to go within and check your intuition and see, all right, is this the right direction for me to go? That's the focus on this time. Now, with that Mars energy, that's going to be for at least this whole new moon. I think, actually, it's not till April that Mars goes into the sign of Aries, and then you're going to be a supercharged rocket ship. But right now, enjoy this time of looking within and really honing your intuition as you move forward. Now, when we look at relationships for you, we are going to be focusing on Mars because it's making a semi-sextile to Venus. Now, I'm interested in what it's doing with Venus because the ruler of your descendant is Venus. And so, but you can see that both of these are below the horizon. It's hard to see in this chart, but the horizon is the line that is from ascendant to descendant. And when things are below the horizon, they're a little bit invisible. So it's that you're not as noticeable right now. But that semi-sextile says if you can get out into the world a little bit, you can meet someone for a love relationship, a partnership, a connection, collaboration, that you could especially work together well. And so that's an opportunity for you. But it also says that romance is possible. Mars is in your area of romance, and Venus there in Aries could be someone pursuing you for a love relationship. So again, you want to get out there and meet them. When it's a semi-sextile, there's a lot of hesitation, friction, just enough to get you to procrastinate and not go out there. And so I just wanted to let you know that if you can just get past that little bit of procrastination, you could meet someone who could be a good connection. This is also about your existing relationships and how coming together, you are going to have a little bit of friction. You're not necessarily on the same page about things. You want to come together, have a conversation so that you can be in harmony. Now, when it comes to your money, we check that second house, and that leads us to Jupiter. Jupiter is very active in this chart. It is making a square to Venus. It is making a nice trine to that Mars. It's making a wide trine to Mercury. So there is enormous opportunities for you to make more money. This is about leveraging what you know. This is in this area of where are your credentials, where's your education, where's your skills, what tools do you have, and this can manifest as a job. This could manifest as a business opportunity or an investment or some sort of speculation. So very, very good energy for you over this next 2 weeks for making more money than usual. All right, I've taken the 0 Aries chart and I've turned the chart so Sagittarius is on the ascendant. And so these are predictions for Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising. And that brings us to the new moon, which is down in your 4th house. That is your area of home and family. And this is a very interesting time. So you are, your sign is ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter is in the sign of Cancer, and Cancer rules home and family. But Sagittarius energy is about travel and expansion and knowledge. And so this is very much about thinking about how you are out in the world and how home could be anywhere in the world, anywhere even in the universe, because wherever you go, there you are. And so therefore you can be at home anywhere. Now that energy here is being challenged by this idea of Jupiter in Cancer, as well as the new moon in the 4th house. So it says, yes, we know that you could be at home anywhere, but you actually live in this particular place or with these particular people, or this is your family. And so how do you deal and interact with them? So this new moon in Pisces indicates that the barriers are, or the boundaries between you and others are dissolving. So this is a time where you could have increasing communication. You could find out what it is that they want, what their goals are, and how those might harmonize with your goals. And this is also a time where you may be thinking about, this is not necessarily my forever home, that I do want to move. And so how do I start to look at that process? This is not about rushing out, though, and buying the first home you see, but instead taking a step towards that direction, maybe going to an open house, maybe looking around and saying, all right, how can I lighten the load a little bit and declutter? This is about looking at the first steps of that. And I also wanted to point out about that Jupiter, the ruler of your sign, that this Jupiter right here is making a lot of aspects in this chart. It's making a square to Venus. It is a trine to Mars, and it's a wide trine to that Mercury. So this is a very busy time for you. The square to Venus means you can actively pursue what it is you want. Venus is sitting in your area of having fun, speculating, doing things with your kids. If you are wanting to do something towards fertility or adding to the family, this is very strong energy for that. This is for energy for romance. This is energy for speculation. If you're in business and you want to launch some sort of startup, this is all good energy for that. And then the trine to Mars means there's harmonious energy. You have the idea, you know what to do. And then that trine to Mercury, you know also when to pause and when to wait. Now, speaking of that trine from Mercury to Jupiter, when we look at relationships, we want to know what Jupiter's relationship is with Mercury, and it is a wide trine. Now, a wide trine can mean that it feels almost a little bit out of reach, that you are thinking about, connecting more deeply with the people in your life, or maybe collaborating with someone, but they're operating on a different level. There's could be something that feels like a chasm between the two of you, but there is an aspect, so you can find the bridge. You can find the way to either meet in the middle or to cross the gorge and connect with them. So the problem with being a wide trine is that it can feel a little out of reach and a little too easy. So when I talk about a trine, it is that your friend needs a wedding cake. You call up the bakery. They say you're our 1 millionth customer. The cake is free, delivery's free, and everything works out perfectly. But it was necessary that you called the bakery. If you hadn't called the bakery, you would have missed out on all of that. So take a small step in that direction of relationships and then things turn out great. Now, when it comes to your money, we check on Saturn and what Saturn is doing, and it is about to make a perfect sextile with Pluto. Now, that is going to be happening on March 28th, and that's going to be at 5 degrees. And a perfect sextile between these two is quite rare. I think it's at least more than 7 years between each sextile. So this is a big opportunity. Now, a sextile energy is your friend needs a wedding cake. You call up the bakery, you order the cake, you go in, you pay for the cake, you pick up the cake, you take it to the wedding, you set up the cake. It's all perfect, but you had to do all of those steps. So this opportunity, which is Saturn, your money planet, with Pluto, is about transforming your financial picture. That's possible, but there's a lot of steps involved. And as you take the steps, you get success. So that means that you can start working on that now as we run up to this perfect sextile. And then, because these are slow-moving planets, you still have energy to spare after that to continue the process. Now, I've taken the 0 Aries chart and I've turned the chart so Capricorn is on the ascendant. So this is predictions for Capricorn and Capricorn rising. And this puts the new moon down here in the 3rd house of thinking process, of communication. This is also about teaching, about paperwork. This is about your neighbors, your siblings, and those closer connections. And so, but let's go back to the thinking, because I was really stuck on that one. And that is that the thoughts that you have are the little seeds that grow the forest that you live in. That is that everything starts with your thinking. And if it's only negative thoughts, if it's only asking questions that you don't really even want the answer to, like, people sometimes in consultations, they'll say, will I ever find a love relationship? Or worse, they'll ask me, am I destined to be alone? Like, these sort of questions are not helpful questions. They are closed-ended questions. And so this is to examine your thoughts, the seeds that you're planting, and shift those towards what you really want. That doesn't mean you have to be Pollyanna about this. You don't have to have everything so rosy and positive. You can be very realistic, as Capricorn and Capricorn rising can be. But you can also say it with hope. Yes, you're climbing Mount Everest. It's hard, but you can still do it. And that is, you put one foot in front of the other, and you take the necessary steps that people do when they climb Mount Everest. So that's part of what's going on. Of course, you can see the base of your chart is really busy. That indicates there's lots going on with neighbors, siblings, family in general. You might be thinking about where you live and shifting some things about that. This might be the time where you're just making some decisions about, the future of okay, I live here, maybe I don't want to always, or maybe it's time for some sort of renovations. Maybe there's some sort of HOA coming in, and it would be good if you're on the board. Or at least, friends with someone on the board. We also want to address the ruler of your sign, that is Saturn. And Saturn's about to do something that is fairly rare, and that is it's going to make a perfect sextile with Pluto. That's going to be on March 28th, and that's going to be at 5 degrees. And that is a perfect opportunity to blend these two powerful energies. Now, Saturn. Saturn is your ruler, and so Saturn's about getting the job done, about moving and doing things that are for a purpose of building something that's going to matter. Now, Pluto is about transformation. It is about doing something that's so big, so powerful, it really makes an impact. And when these two come together, there are some big opportunities that are available to you. So this is a time where we take this moon and sun in that 3rd house of thinking, and you start to think big. You start to think with ambition. Now, we normally would see big thinking with Jupiter. With Saturn, it has to be accompanied with a plan. Jupiter can be that pie in the sky, oh yeah, I'm going to change the world and, have the world spin the other direction, etc. But with Saturn, it is, all right, if I'm going to climb Mount Everest, I guess I need to go get a pack. And then you go get the pack. And then, maybe I should do some little test runs. Maybe there's some hills that I can climb first. And then practicing, I think if you climb Mount Everest, you need oxygen, maybe practicing with that. So this is about taking some of your goals really seriously, breaking them down, putting them into your schedule, really saying this is what's going to transform my life. And because this aspect, in the scope of Saturn, this aspect comes along, it's got to be more than once every 7 years. But I don't know exactly, but it's definitely more than once every 7 years. It's that rare. But this is just the decision point. This is when you decide you're going to do it. The unfolding of the energy takes that, can take years. So consider, what is it that you really want? Well, how do you want to transform, let's say, your finances, because that's where Pluto is sitting in your area of finances. And so you might ask yourself that question. I can't remember who, one of the older, the kind of Napoleon Hill guys from the past, but he said, how can I make my annual income my monthly income? That would be a question to ask. Now, when it comes to relationships, we want to know what Saturn is doing with the moon, the ruler of the descendant. And I know it doesn't look like it, but they're actually conjunct. So I'm going to draw a big box here so that you can see that the moon is actually at the end of the sign and Saturn's at the beginning of the sign, and those two signs are next to each other, so they're actually conjunct, but they're very different from each other. That is an opportunity to meet someone who's very different than you are, but you make a very strong connection. This is also that you can get past differences and find common ground with someone you know. So this is about relationships where you could connect for love, for friendship, but also business collaboration, partnerships, and things like that. You're two different people coming together for a shared purpose. Now, I already talked a little bit about your money, and we talked already about Saturn, but let's do the other ruler of your money house, and that is Uranus, because Uranus has a special role in this chart, and that is, it is the only planet really making an aspect to this new moon, and that is a sextile. Sextile is a very nice aspect of, if you take a little action, you can get success. So that's what you want to be thinking about when it comes to your money, that some sort of action is needed. This is not a set it and forget it sort of aspect. Now, with Uranus in your fifth house, that is about creativity. And so this is about being a little bit more creative about whatever it is, whether it's marketing or your pitch or how you approach your boss about a raise. And right now, we're lucky because there's so many different AI platforms that you could put different ideas in, and it could expand these ideas. It could tell you what to say. It could give you tips on how to do this effectively. So you want to leverage that energy right now, because this is a good aspect. So I've taken the 0 Aries chart and I turned the chart so Aquarius is on the ascendant. So this is predictions for Aquarius and Aquarius rising. And that puts our new moon energy right in your house of money. So, of course, this is also the house of possessions and self-worth. So, but this is where something new can happen. But remember what I was saying in the opening about Mercury being retrograde and sitting on the North Node. That's an indicator that it's not time to just burst out of the gate running towards the finish line, but to step very quietly and very gently towards the direction you think you should go and see what happens, see what kind of signs are out there. This is kind of like, yeah, maybe there's a little swinging rope bridge and you want to get to the other side, but let's test the bridge because maybe a mile down there's a paved bridge, but you can test this one and see if this one's going to work. So this is in your area of money, so it directly relates to financial opportunities, so doing a little bit of test marketing or a soft launch or something like that. But this is also in your area of possessions. And so because this is such a late new moon, this may be the beginning of you letting go of some possessions. Like maybe you've struggled with decluttering in the past, and now you can see, okay, now I can release these items. This is also about self-worth. And the interesting thing about Pisces is there's no boundaries between you and anything else with Pisces energy. And so self-worth is an issue that the majority of people struggle with. And so if everybody is struggling with this, if everybody's struggling with this idea of worthiness, doesn't that really mean that this is some sort of thing that we don't need to struggle with? Maybe everybody is worthy. Maybe this is something that the universe is abundant and that we can all have what we're looking for. We just have to get past this idea that we shouldn't have it, we don't deserve it, or that, it's some sort of punishment not to have it, etc. So these are the things to think about with this new moon. Now, the other thing that I wanted to point out about this is, of course, you have two planets that rule the sign of Aquarius. One is Saturn, but the other is Uranus, and Uranus has a special role in this chart, and that is it's making a very nice sextile to that new moon. Now, a sextile is the energy of your friend needs a wedding cake, and you call up the bakery, you order the cake, you go into the bakery, you pick up the cake, you pay for it, you pick it up, you go to the wedding, you assemble the cake, everything's beautiful. Every step along the way you had to do something, and then you had success each and every time. So this is, as you try new things, as you go out into the world, you're going to find success after success after success. Now, some of these successes are going to be tiny and maybe don't need to be built upon. That's where your Saturn comes in and says, all right, is this worthy? Is this going to build the type of monument that I want? But the opportunity is for you to stumble upon, Uranus, something that you're doing that does really make a difference. And then Saturn can jump in and say, all right, this is the building material we need to build the monument that we want for our lives. Now, when it comes to relationships, we want to know what Uranus and Saturn, but in this case Uranus, is doing with the sun, because this would be the ruler of the ascendant and the ruler of the descendant. If they're coming together, then there's opportunities in relationship. And of course, it's that sextile that we were just talking about. So that is that if you can get out into the world, if you can get out of the house, then you have opportunities to meet someone for a friendship, a love relationship, a business partnership, a collaboration. But here's the problem, and let me clear that chart so you can see it. And this is the horizon right here, this line. So this is what you can see is above the horizon. That is, if you go outside, this is what you see, which is nothing. And this is below the horizon. So if you're in the United States, this is down in Australia. So if you're in Australia, then if you're in Australia, then it's flipped. So yeah, I confused myself. But basically, you're hard to see right now, and it's hard to get you out of the house. And so that's the thing that's interrupting this process where you have this lovely sextile. Remember, that was your friend needs a wedding cake, so you call the bakery. If you don't call the bakery, there's no cake. If you don't go to the bakery and pay for it, there's no cake. If you don't pick it up and deliver it, there's no cake. Each of the steps has you involved. And so this is where you have to kind of force yourself out the door, where you say, I don't really want to go out, but I'm going out anyway because I have this opportunity to meet people with this sextile. That's what you're looking for with this energy. Now, when it comes to your money, of course, we've already been saying that this is such a strong chart for money. There is 4 planets in your house of money. That's pretty rare. You want to really capitalize on it. Your money house is ruled by both Neptune and Jupiter. And we want to talk about Jupiter because Jupiter is super active in this chart. It is making a square to Venus, and then it's making a trine to Mars and a trine to Mercury. So that is a lot of good energy that you can really utilize. Now, the square to Venus in your house of communication says make the call, send out the information, send out the proposal, talk to your boss, connect with others, and tell them what you do. And then the trines go right to your house of money. That is the trine to Mars, somebody takes action, the trine to Mercury, they call up and they say, I want the appointment, let's get that scheduled. That's what the results are. So take the action, that square to Venus, communicate, send the paperwork, send the proposal. Remember, Mercury's still retrograde for a couple of days, so have them sign it after the Mercury goes direct, and then you reap the benefits. So I've taken the 0 Aries chart and I've turned the chart so that Pisces is on the ascendant. So this is predictions for Pisces and Pisces rising. And of course, this is your new moon. So right here in your first house, that means this is the beginning of your 12-month lunar year. So if we thought of the lunar year as a year on the farm, that would give us 3 months for each season. And so that's 3 months of spring, 3 months of summer, 3 months of autumn, and then 3 months of winter. You are now at the beginning of spring. And that means that you have a bag of seeds and you're ready to plant. Now, that's also, you want to plant a lot of seeds. You don't want to just plant one seed and then stand there for 3 months waiting to see if it's going to sprout. Now, that said, we do have that retrograde Mercury, which is going to slow you down a little bit right at the beginning. That is, you plant a couple of seeds and then those, you cover them up, you give them some water. Now move to some other, like a different patch of garden, plant a different seed. Don't just plant carrot, but a little carrot, a little kale, maybe a little potato over here, etc. So try different things, especially in the first couple of days of this new moon energy, so that we can get Mercury moving forward and giving you the signs of what's going to be working. Now, also with such a strong first house here, we know that this is a lot of leadership energy. This is about becoming the leader of your life. This may be leading others, but it is about deciding what you want and saying, all right, this is the direction I want to go. It's the beginning of spring in your astrological lunar cycle. So what do you want to accomplish in the next year? Well, where do you want to be a year from now? So thinking about that and doing some planning. We have a lot of these planets really focused in the first quadrant. I did some videos on quadrants, and there's a playlist about those, but we can see that except for Pluto and Jupiter, all the planets are in this first quadrant. First quadrant's about taking care of self. The first house is about taking care of your physical body. Second house is about taking care of your money. Third house about taking care of your thoughts, your ideas. So this is a time where you do want to be taking care of yourself. Maybe go get a massage, do some stretching, maybe spend some time in the hot tub, that sort of thing. Another thing I wanted to point out about this chart is that you, of course, have 2 rulers. One is the Neptune. We'll talk about Neptune. We'll be talking about Neptune forever, so no worries about that. But let's talk about Jupiter just a second here, because Jupiter is making some really good aspects in this chart. It's making a square to Venus, and then a trine to Mars, and then a trine to Mercury. That means, one, a very busy time, but it also is Jupiter going through your house of creativity and speculation, that as you do creative things, as you speculate a little bit, you're going to get some very positive results. This is about putting some resources, that's the square to Venus, into what you're doing. And that might mean buying art supplies. It could be that literal. Or it's just your time and your energy into a creative project. Now, 5th house is also your kids. And so oftentimes when we have kids, they can be little mirrors of us. So if you're thinking, no, Donna, it's not me that should be out there being creative, it's my kids, I'm going to say it's probably you. So if you're thinking that it's your kids that need to put some resources, time, energy, or money into their creative projects, think about doing it yourself with your own projects, and you're going to see that suddenly, miraculously, they seem to be doing it. So this is right now, they are definitely your mirror. They are really coming, because that trine energy is coming right back to those planets in Pisces. And so whatever it is that you think they should be doing, try doing it yourself, and you're going to see not only that good things happen for you, but they miraculously seem to understand and take advantage of the energy. When it comes to relationships, friendships, collaborations, we want to see what the ruler of the ascendant is doing with the ruler of the descendant. And so that is an interaction both with Mercury and Neptune, which is a semi-sextile, and also Mercury and Jupiter. My hair is a little, has a mind of its own today. So this trine from Mercury and Jupiter is very wide, and actually it's pretty wide with that semi-sextile with Neptune also. Both of these mean that there's some resistance to actually following through on any sort of connections. But if you do, then you're going to get some benefit, even though it's not going to come out exactly like you're thinking. In other words, this is like asking someone for a favor, like, please bring a dessert to the event, and they bring a salad. So it's not quite what you wanted. Maybe the salad has a little bit of fruit in it. Some places do the salad last. Like there's some things, but it's just they can be helpful, but there's something going to be a little bit off. Now, that's the same if you meet someone. It may be a timing problem. Like you meet someone, it looks like it's going to go great, but they're just about to travel out of the country and you can't see them for a couple of weeks. That's not a no. That's just this little semi-sextile and wide degrees between a wide orb between these planets that is stopping this from feeling very smooth. So it does give you some time also to let Mercury go direct, and then it will start to then move forward and tighten up that aspect, that nice trine between the Mercury and the Jupiter. So again, if it feels like it's, sometimes people say, well, if it's right, it'll be easy, but that's not always the case. It's really dependent on the aspects. Now, when it comes to your money, you pull money from Mars, and Mars is right here. I'm going to actually take that out because I want to highlight the Mars there. Mars is in your own sign of Pisces. Mars is in a place you truly understand. It is about taking action, but not that direct sort of throwing the javelin sort of action, because when there's Pisces, there's a lack of clarity. There is a fog, so you don't throw a javelin in the fog. This is about feeling your way, about finding your inner compass. When it comes to money matters, it's about trusting yourself, and that takes some practice. It's the practice of first having to differentiate between the world and so many different signs and information and what's you're really feeling inside. But then it's also to decipher those signals that you're getting from your gut, from your higher self, from your angels and guides, and putting that into a real world context. So it's one thing to be thinking, oh yeah, it's time to invest. It's another thing to understand what you should be investing in. This is the opportunity for you to see that a little bit more clearly right now, because Mars is in your sign. So you already are very intuitive. Now you can apply that Mars to it and take action in line with your intuition. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you would like to know more about what's up for you in 2026 and 2027, I do readings. Your chart can reveal a lot about what's going on, how to make better decisions, what your interaction with others is about, where to live, time for career change, all these kinds of things. So there's a link in the description for more information, and I'll see you in the next video.